welcome to Growing in Grace, and we're glad to be with you and you to be with us, whereas we continue to grow in grace and knowledge of how to build our families and how to grow our families in a way that would be pleasing to God and even ourselves. And so today, we want to get into our conversation today with, we have a special guest today, Mother Cassandra Camp, or Cassandra Camp. She's one of our mothers in the church. And actually, she is one of my aunts as well. And actually, she is one of my most fruitful aunts. And today, I'll help you to understand why I say that, because today we're going to talk with you today about how to build a close-knit family. How to build a close-knit family. And that's what we want. We want our families to be close-knit. We don't want our families to be divided and separated. We want love to be in our families and our families to be together and support to each other. And so we're going to get into this conversation with Cassandra Camp. And so we'll start out with the history of your family. The history of your family. How long have you been married?
This November 10th, it will be 39 years.
39 years.
39 years.
Wonderful. Wonder who you're married to?
I'm married to Elder Dwight Camp.
All right. Very good. Very good. And so tell me about your family. How many children you got? Boys, girls? Just talk.
Okay. So start off by talking about how I met Elder Camp.
Come on.
Okay. So Elder Camp came to our church to play for a choir anniversary, and he was invited to the church by the Jacksons. Michael Jackson, actually. Michael Jackson was the drummer, and we needed a bass player. So he said, I know of a person that plays bass, and it was Dwight Camp. So he came and he played, and of course, you know, he's a very, very, very good bass player. And so after that, I think he came back to our church on a fifth Sunday meeting, and after that night, he called me. Well, he called me. And ever since then, we have been talking. I think about a year later, we got married. We got married, and I tried.
A year later?
About a year later.
Okay, very good.
About a year later.
Okay.
And I tried to convince him, you know, into joining the church. And, you know, you got to join the church in order for me to, get married to you and all this kind of stuff. And, of course, you know, he wouldn't hear it. If you know my husband.
Yeah, he kind of... he have a certain mind.
He's hard to change. You change his mind.
Right.
But I felt like he was a very good man, and I felt like he would be a very good husband, and I just didn't want to give up on him not joining the church.
Yeah.
So I said, well, maybe once we get married, he'll just join the church or whatever. And I had already said, I said, I don't know if I'm messing up or not. I said, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I don't skip out on church. When Bible class going on, when Sunday school going on, when Sunday service going on, I'm going to be there. And he followed me. And he was very impressed with my mother and my father. And he was very impressed with the way we sit around the table and we talked. And it wasn't just mom and dad. It was mom, dad, my brothers, my sisters. And, we wasn't brought up with a TV. So that's how we communicate. We just talked to each other and played with each other because we couldn't go anywhere, Well, we didn't go anywhere much.
Right.
So he was very impressed. And him not being in the church was not the thing I felt like not to marry him. So I did, and probably about 3 months after we was married, he did join the church.
Yeah.
But every week we was at my mama's house, sitting around the table, he was talking to my mom and my dad. He was very impressed with them because the way we was brought up and the way they was brought up was a little different, a little different because, every time we got together, he liked the way we just communicated together. And, his family they're just a little separate. I mean, they was good family, but they were just quiet and they didn't just communicate like we did.
Right, I understand.
So when we got married, of course. I got married in 1984. 1985, the first child came. 1986, the second child came.
Whoa.
1988,
Uh-huh.
the third child came.
Ah,
90, 91, and 94.
I see.
So I had 6 kids.
I see.
I had 4 boys and 2 girls.
All right.
4 boys and 2 girls. And when I was pregnant with the second child, I decided to quit my job and to be a stay-at-home mom. And I think everybody can't do this, and I'm just, this is my testimony. That was one of the best things I could have did. We didn't have a lot of money, and we was really poor, but the love that we had, the communication that we had, just the two of us with the little kids. I wouldn't change nothing. I wouldn't, if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't change anything.
Right.
Because I see where it was a blessing.
Right.
It was a blessing.
Right.
So bringing the kids up in the church, and then, you know, of course, my husband was a bass player, so he was into music. So very, very little, you know, very early on, the kids came up into music, and that's how we spent most of our time. In this little room, somebody clapping, somebody singing, and they playing.
Yeah. So y'all started y'all studio out real early.
Really early.
The house was like a big studio.
Really early. With a drum set, with lead guitar, with a bass guitar. And then, you know, when the kids started going to school, they was in the band. So then we had the trumpet, and we had this, the what, xylophone, whatever it was.
Oh, okay.
So then we had all of it, you know, every weekend, every other night or whatever. We would get together. Well, I'd be in the room with them, but they would get together and they would play. But we just did a lot of stuff like that. And meals, you know, this day and time, a lot of people, everybody get their plate, they go to their room, look at TV. We ate at the table.
Right, right. So you were, and your family was actually doing what you had learned to do, and so you continued it beyond, you know, what you did at mom and dad's house. You took it to your house.
Right. And I have always said, you know, when I got married, I said, you know, I want to be just like my mom. I didn't know what I was saying, but I did say that. I want to be just like mom. You know, mom had the food ready when daddy got home from work, but I didn't know what I was saying because that was a lot.
Yeah.
That was a lot trying to be just like mom.
Yeah.
But I did take on a lot of her traits.
Right. She had 6 and that she raised, and
actually my mama had 6 kids. His mama had 6 kids.
Don't you see?
And actually, I tell this story. I sometimes think we were just meant to be together. My mama, mother, and grandmother lived at the top of the hill. Dwight was born and raised at the bottom of the hill, same street.
Oh.
At the bottom of the hill.
Don't you see?
Right. Which he used to come to my grandmama's store, not knowing us at all.
Yeah.
He didn't know us until he came to play, you know, at the church. And then my mom and dad is 7 years apart. His mom and dad is 7 years apart.
Don't you see? Don't you see? In fact, when they were introduced, when your parents was introduced to him, they already kind of knew him.
They already kind of knew him because they knew his mom and they knew his dad.
There you go. There you go. See, so that's wonderful. And in fact, your parents could see in him his potential before y'all got married, and that's why even your dad he consented that it would be okay to marry him, you know, because he could see further than you.
Right.
So and it has turned to be a blessing.
It turned to be a real good blessing. A real good blessing.
And so you've got 6 children. And now you're in a different phase of life.
Yes.
Because you're not just sister camp, you're mother camp.
Yes.
And there's a reason for that.
Yes.
Tell me about what happened with your children. What began to happen with your children in that, how many grandchildren do you have now?
Oh. I have 22 grandkids.
What?
I have 22 grandkids.
22. I tell you this. I have 3, and seeing you with your 6 children and your 22 grandchildren, that make me think, man, I wish I'd had about at least 3 more kids so I could have more grandkids. Because the grandkids, I tell you, it's something about grandkids, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Oh, yes,
yeah,
yes.
they're so precious. And somebody said one time to me, I think it was as like a little humor, that if I knew how good the grandkids would be, I would have had them first.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
you can't do it like
Right,
that.
right, right. So I had six kids,
Yes,
and all six was married. So I have 12 kids, really.
yes,
Right.
yes,
So we're all one big happy family.
yeah.
One big happy family.
Wonderful.
I
12.
appreciate my son-in-laws and I appreciate my daughter-in-laws.
Yeah, yeah. And so, how do we now build a close knit family? Because sometimes we can multiply and have the large family, but the close knit, the close, the unity, the bond, and So, what are some of the ingredients to building the? What do you say one of the number one things to that? And maybe we can do a second and a third, but what would you say like a number one thing to building a close knit family?
Well, most of my kids are with the church. So staying with the church and hearing the teaching of the church and how home should be. That was a blessing all by itself.
Right.
And then we don't talk against the church. So we all talk for the church, and we believe in the way the church, carry the marriages and the homes and how families should be. And we just sit around, we do things together. A lot of things together. A lot of things together. We consider each other.
Yeah.
And try to have dinners together. Or if somebody's got an event, like my daughter might want to have a game night, we should call her siblings. So even though they're married, they still call each other all the time. Come over and sit around and talk, just like they did when they was younger. So sitting around talking, being together all the time, eating together, going to church together, playing music together, all of that helps.
Oh, that helps. I agree. So here's the thing that the Bible talks about, even with the new saints that came into the church on the day of Pentecost, and they were together and they had fellowship. So how important is fellowship in that? Now, you kind of spoke a little bit about it, but tell me the role of fellowship within your family, fellowship, and how often do they come over to eat? And so food and eating and breaking bread together. Tell me a little bit about that in building the close-knit family and the role that it plays in your family.
So every Sunday, just about all of my kids are at my house. Just about every Sunday. But through the week, at least 3 to 4 times, somebody's at my house. And then somebody's at my house almost every day. Either just coming in, speaking, sitting around talking, and then leaving. And then I think that's just so important that they spend a lot of time together. They like to be together. That we don't have confusion. We don't have fussing. This one ain't mad at that one. I can't tell you when the kids are mad at each other because that's not something they do.
So how in raising them, how did you help them to manage their relationships even as children so that they could grow to that, to where they actually can have those kind of mannerisms or treatment towards each other? What did you do?
We just had them to just play together. I don't know. They just did good playing together. I mean, we had...
Because I know, sometimes kids, they get into stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of straighten them out.
Yeah, I do.
That's your brother, that's your sister.
Yeah.
Y'all can't be doing this, and that kind of thing. Because me and my brother,
Yeah.
so we kind of got into it. But I like now, we just have peace now. But my mom had to kind of work with us about that when we were kids.
That's right.
So how did you have to make some adjustments with them, or did you have to make any?
We did. Yeah, I mean, when they really get to fussing and stuff like that, you have to separate them or put them in timeout, make them hug each other, and they didn't like that.
Yeah.
Or make them sit down. They didn't like that. You got me in trouble and stuff like that. That's basically what we did. And then my husband, he did more talking, and I did more lashing out.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I would have thought it might have been different.
No. But he talked to them constantly.
Okay.
You can't be doing this. You can't be doing that. Why are you doing this? And they just didn't like that, because he just talked on. and on,
Yeah.
and on. I think they would rather get punished.
Go ahead, go
I think
ahead, spank me.
right. But he would sit them down and talk to him.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
But that was his way of chastising them.
Yeah.
It's just really talking to them.
Talk him. He said, I'm gonna talk to you. He said, oh no, bring mama in here.
But I tell you, I tell people this story sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
When my oldest two boys, they was in high school, and my husband travels.
Yes.
He travels, and this particular time he was in California, and then I was up getting the kids ready for school, and I heard them fussing, the two boys fussing. Then the fussing got to be more serious, like they're about to get to fighting.
Yeah.
So I go in and I tell them, okay, stop. They act like I wasn't there. They kept it going. Then they got to be pushing. And I'm like, oh my God, my husband, Dwight's not here. And these boys been get, at that time, they was taller than me. I didn't know what to do. The only thing I did was pick the phone up and I called Dwight. He said, put Christian on the phone, my oldest son. Christian got on the phone. He talked to him. When he got off the phone, and it was all over a shirt. Christian had on Brian's shirt. Brian said, I'm wearing that shirt. Chris said, I ain't taking it off. That's what it started.
Right.
Chris took the shirt off and took him to school because he was driving at that time. And I said, well, what did you say to him? Because I'm going like the last 10 minutes, stop. Y'all better stop. I think I even went and got a broom, and they still were about to get the fight, and I didn't know nothing to do but call it. But in less than 5 minutes, he had calmed everything down. They was calm. They didn't fuss anymore. Christian took Brian to school. And the only thing they said, when the day he supposed to came back home, I think Mama done got us in trouble. But Dwight came home and he asked how everybody was doing. Everybody was fine. So he didn't even bring the
He didn't bring it up.
Right.
Yeah.
But that thing bothered me. I'm like, how you just they was really getting about to get the fighting, and how you gonna calm them down? You in California.
The words. See, I think one scripture even talks about that in Job 6 and about 25. It says, what does your organ reprove? How forcible are right words? So really, the right words, sometimes they could do more than, the attitude or the physical thing that you would do. Right words and just choosing those right words. And evidently, he knew the right words to say.
Right. I mean, because I'm listening, he was calm. Because California time is different from.
Oh yeah, he might have been.
So it was like
waking him up.
It was like 3:00 in the morning up there,
Yeah.
And he just calmly, Chris calmed down. They both calmed down, and they didn't bring that subject up no more.
Yeah, and another thing I think about too is in relationships and families about how kind words turn away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. And so sometimes when the spirit is, or the attitudes are high, in order to bring them low, you kind of got to come in there low. All right, now what you doing, son? Why you doing that? You just kind of, but then you just kind of come in there real. Then he's got to kind of come down some too, and that can really help families as you deal with your children and things like that. Sometimes they're upset or whatever, or there's a anger going on. Well, you got to come in there with something other than the anger, because all the thing you'll do then is you just feed that anger,
right?
And maybe could make it even worse.
And that's kind of like how I was, get upset, but my husband was totally different.
Yeah.
He said, you can talk to me about anything. When you get in trouble at school, why did you do this? I mean, he just sit there and talk to him. I'm upset.
Yeah.
And you ain't got no business doing this, I'm just ready to hit him.
Yeah.
But he never was like that. He was always calm.
Yeah.
And every time they got in trouble, he would just sit them down and he talked to them.
Right. And so that sounds like it's been a blessing to your family. In fact, I would say this too, though, that the way that your husband is a blessing to your family. And probably you have been a blessing to your family too, with even the correction and the just. I guess what I'm aiming at or hitting at here is that I think you need both parents.
Oh, definitely.
You need both parents. Kind of like you remember different shows, they had the good cop and bad cop. So, but at the end, both of them will have worked together to get to the end result. and it sounds like you and your husband have worked together to get
Oh,
to
yes.
the point to where you are today.
Oh, yes.
And I don't believe that your family would be what it is if you hadn't contributed what you contributed, and if he hadn't contributed what he contributed, which may have been different things, you know. So that's a blessing. That's a blessing. So y'all had the correction and the instructions, and then you raised up the family, and then they got their wives, and now you got your grandchildren.
Right, right.
So where are you now? How do you see yourself as parents now? You know, you had 3 children, and then you had another 3. And in fact, I think your husband has spoke about this. Did you raise the first 3 like you did
no.
the second 3?
Oh, no.
Can you speak to that?
No.
Can you speak to
Well-
the difference and the first 3, the second 3, and then the grandparents? So can you talk about your progression as parents?
So when you have your first child and then you have your second child, they are 2 different individuals. They're not the same. Chris and Brian was like day and night. Chris liked music. Brian not so much, not playing music. Chris liked playing ball when he was small. Brian not so much. He didn't like playing ball. They were like day and night. Chris wanted to go outside and play. He get mad because Brian didn't want to go out and play. Brian was interested in science and looking at what was
Rocks
it?
and stones.
Channel 8, the learning show.
Yeah.
Yeah, stones.
Yeah.
Science. Yeah. Chris wanted to play ball. He wasn't interested in none of that.
Yeah.
So it was like day and night. So when chastising kids, it's the same way. When I had Alicia, you can just look at her hard. She'll just burst into tears. You know. So you can't chastise her the same way you chastise. Chris was hard. He was very hard. You know, so hitting him, it was just like hitting a rock or whatever. It's like he didn't even feel it. Brian wasn't like Chris. Alicia was even softer than, so each time you have a child, they're different. So you have to learn their nature, their mannerism, and so you can't be hard on a child that's real soft, or you're kind of mess them up mentally. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you just have to learn your kids and chastise them the way that needs to be chastised.
Yeah, because sometimes people say, well, I treat all my children the same, or I treat everybody the same. I think I kind of know what people mean by that, but I think if you treat everybody the same, you're going to be treating somebody wrong.
Right.
Yeah, because everybody's not the same. So, but I think we should treat everybody right, but not the same.
Not the same.
Not the same.
Because each one of them got their own different, way that they do things, or so you can't chastise them all the same.
Yeah. And so then, would you say that, so like your first 3, the oldest 3, you're just kind of practicing with them? And then you had your second 3.
Most definitely. Most
definitely. Okay, now you raised them a little better because you kind of knew some things differently.
You learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. It's just like when you get married. You don't really, you think you know what it's all about.
Right.
You really don't know what it's all about till you're in it.
Yeah.
And you have to learn.
Right.
Some things you say, some things you don't say.
Right.
I learned very early on because, like I say, my husband went in the church. I went for arguing. So I learned very early on, I'm not going to be arguing. You can talk to yourself.
Right. And that ain't going to last that long.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
Right.
So I learned early on. It's the same way with raising kids. You have to learn your child and know what works for that child.
Right.
So it's not always hitting them.
Yes. And one of the things I think about, too, is the Bible says in I think Titus 2, about 3 or so, it says that the aged women should teach the young women to love their husband and love their children. And like you said, sometimes you think, well, I already love my husband. I already love my children because I birthed them, and I'm their mom. So I already know I love my husband and children. That's why we got married, and then these my kids that came from me. So I love them. What can you say to that as teaching? How is it that really a young daughter should be taught to love their husband and love their children versus just that passion or that feeling that they have, that they think they love them at first?
Well, first of all, I mean, when you got to learn your husband. And what say my husband, me and my husband, what my husband like, your husband not like that.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta learn what your husband like and do that
Yes.
to please him.
Right.
And then he has to do the same thing with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So everything it's not everything my way
Mm-hmm.
or everything his way.
Mm-hmm.
We got to learn how to work together.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys got to learn each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Once you learn, the more you learn each other, the better it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you'll know what to say, not to say, what to do, not to do. Oh, he don't like this, I'm not gonna do that. And versus saying, well, I'm gonna do it because this is what I want to do. It's not all about you.
Exactly. Exactly. And so sometimes that that has to be taught, or that understanding has to be passed on to a newlywed.
Right.
You got to
Right.
understand, hey, this is more than a honeymoon and
Yeah, oh, yeah.
reception.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And that honeymoon going to be over with, and
Yeah.
then you got to know what to begin to do and how to manage that relationship.
Yeah.
And then the children, the same thing.
Right.
Loving your children, what does some of that look like? To be taught.
And loving your kids is not. Love is not letting them do everything they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this, I kind of brought mine up like we kind of was brought up.
Mm-hmm.
So when they was young, I didn't let them do a lot of spending night with different people.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I took care of my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I took care of my kids. So when I went to, a lot of people can't do this. I'm just telling you my testimony.
Right.
When I took care of my kids. My mama didn't keep my kids all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time I took my kids with me.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I went to the grocery store, I took my kids with me. Wasn't no spending the night with cousins.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I brought my kids up. I'm not saying it's totally wrong. That just was in me. I think that's because we was brought up that way, and I just didn't let them spend the night with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I raised my kids. We raised our kids.
Right.
So the neighbors can come down in the yard to play. I didn't always let them walk down the street and play in the neighbor's yard. But it was okay for them to play in my yard.
Mm-hmm. Where you can watch them.
Where I can watch them.
And control things and discipline and keep things under control.
And then this was me. I'm not saying everybody do this. I took my kids to school and I picked my kids up from school. I'm not saying nothing wrong with the bus. Yeah. They did ride the bus, but when it was an emergency. But I was a home mom, so I took my kids to school and I picked my kids up. Mm-hmm. And when I did get a job, I stayed at home 14 years. Mm-hmm. When I did get a job with the school system, I still took my kids to school, and we still picked them up. And they was in middle school and high. Well, I had them in all school, elementary, middle, and high when I started school. Mm-hmm. But we still picked them up.
Right. So a lot of the close-knitness was a lot of things that helped your family be close-knit was your involvement. And
definitely.
Staying involved all the way through to just about when they left your house, and now you're still involved.
Right. And when they started school, we went to PTA meeting. I know a lot of people don't do that,
yeah.
but we did.
Yeah.
Because we was interested in our kids.
Yes.
We went to the parent meeting with the teacher to find out what the kids was doing. Mm-hmm. Because you didn't want them over there doing anything, and then, you don't go to the meeting, so we did that. When they was in the music, when they was in the what you call that?
The band.
The band. We went to the meets. Mm-hmm. When they was in the
chorus.
Chorus. We went to that. We was involved with them. While they was in school, we was involved with them.
So you showed up for that. What they had going on, it was important to them. Y'all made it important to you.
It made it important to us.
Yeah.
So we went. Me and him went.
Yes.
Even with the parent conference, most of the time it was me and him. Yes. He would take off from work and go with me.
I see. And really, you really are a testament to, the benefit of a nuclear family, and how that can really work, especially when the husband and wife are on the same page. And it sounds like, you and your husband were on the same page with how to raise the children and, how to discipline them. And if you did have a misunderstanding, y'all would work it out to where, y'all got on the same page.
Right.
Because sometimes things do come up where you're not on the same page. And then you have to get on the same page, And it seems like y'all worked it out to where y'all could, stay pretty close on the same page with raising your children. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Because this was your life.
Oh yeah. And sometimes I would say, well, Dwight, I don't think I would have did it like that. But I didn't do it like in front of the kids or whatever. But sometimes I would say something like that, and then he would explain why he did what he did, and I explained why I thought it should have went that way, and I would just let it go. It wasn't gonna be turned into no argument.
Yeah, no fuss and match. Yeah. That's good. That's good. And so, what do you see your role now? Since now your children's got children, so what do you see your role now with your children? Not with your grandchildren, but with your children.
A lot of them see raising kids as being hard. And I said, it's not really hard. It's a little work right now. And it is going to be a little work when they're small, but they're not going to be small always.
Exactly.
While I'm doing this, I'm doing that, it's not working. It will eventually work. Sometimes it don't seem like it's working, but as they grow up, it works. You just got to keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. And, and eventually they're going to grow up and it's not going to be as hard on you as you right now. It might be a little hard.
You sound like a coach.
I don't know about all that.
You sound like a life coach, where you're kind of helping. You encourage your daughters and your children. You kind of encourage them and you kind of help them to see how it's going to be better and maybe give some advice here and there. Do you see yourself doing that?
I do, because a lot of times they say, well, I'm not going to be able to do it because I got these kids. I said, okay. I had 6 kids, and I did that and more. I said, it could be done. It could be done. You just gotta do things that make it work for you. If you know you they work at home. A lot of them have phone calls at home. Then you need to set it up where you got your kids situated a certain way, and then get them nice and comfortable, or give them a tablet, or give them something, and then you take your call. But don't just say, well, I can't do nothing because I got the kids. You got to figure out. What to do.
That's right. And like I said, be creative.
Right.
And that's where you come in at.
Yeah.
That's where you come in at because they can't think.
Right. Yeah.
What I'm saying is maybe the emotions got them and all the weight of everything, but you have some clarity because you've already climbed the mountain and you can kind of look down and see, okay, look, you just need to go a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. Right. You can make it too.
Right.
Because you've already, established and have done it. And you can kind of help them along as they're coming along.
Right.
And they're right in the middle of it
right. Even with the kids, in church, they always want to get up. They want to do this, want to do it. So a certain time every day, you got to make them sit down. They got to learn, okay, you got to sit down. And you don't get up for so many minutes. And that'll teach them when they get to church. They can sit down. You're not in church for 2 hours.
Right.
But you got to start training. Training starts at home.
Yes.
And that's important. Because when they're going to school is off the chain right now.
Yes.
Training starts at home.
Right.
Because they'll pick up stuff.
Right.
Yeah, see little Johnny doing this and they want to do what little Johnny do. We don't do this in our house. So training starts at home.
Right. And so, and with that, it's a consistent training.
It's consistent.
And even like what you said, earlier, how, your husband did a lot of talking. And then you did the chastisement. And probably if you're going to be successful, even in this generation, you probably need a mix of that. What do you think about that? Do you think that it should be a mix, or should it be all talking?
No, I don't think.
Because we got to talk.
No, I don't think it should.
But you think it should be all talking?
I don't think it should be all talking. It's just you got to do it a little different than when we were coming.
I understand.
You got to do it with some understanding.
Exactly.
You just got to do it with some understanding because we don't want nobody being locked up because you got knots and whips and stuff all over you when you go into school because they will question it.
Yes.
You just got to do it with understanding.
Right, and then some of the things that have been done in the past, some of that wasn't even. It didn't have to go that far.
Right.
You understand?
I agree.
But a child needs to understand consequences.
Right.
Because the reality of it is, whether you learn consequences at home, you'll learn consequences
yeah.
in the world. Because eventually consequences will catch up with you. Like we've seen situations with the police where the police is, actually sometimes going further than what his authorities should allow him to go, with his trying to correct a person or citizen, And so, well, some of that come where the person actually don't comply with orders. You understand what I'm saying? And I understand the police should not abuse his power, but sometimes he gets to that point because the person won't obey simple commands.
Right.
But when you actually have taught children to obey authority, then sometimes they can avoid some of those interactions with police officers. Do you agree with what
I
I'm
agree,
saying?
100%. I agree.
Yeah, and so sometimes I think that just learning how to obey at home
Right.
can teach a child how to obey at school,
Right.
the teacher, the principal, the resource officer. But we see now where people grow up and they don't obey nobody.
Right.
They'll fight with the teacher, get sent to the principal's office, fight with the principal.
Right.
The resource officer come in, they'll fight with him.
Right.
They'll go all the way, and they don't respect anybody. And so a lot of time that respect starts with mom and dad, and teaching and disciplining and showing that you got to respect authority.
Right.
So what do you think?
I agree. I agree 100% because I work in the school system, so I see a lot. A lot. I see a lot. So it definitely starts at home. And it don't even have to be whooping. You could, little Johnny might want ice cream. Oh no, you was bad today. You can't have ice cream. Or you got to sit down for 15 minutes because you don't know, you're talking too much. It's just little things like that. It starts at home, definitely.
Right. And I think I appreciate you for bringing those illustrations. Right. Your discipline can be, what do your child love?
Right.
What do he love?
Right.
If he love going outside, and then you tell him to say, well, all right, well, you do such and such, you can't go outside.
Right.
Then you'll probably cry more about
Right.
that than
Right.
if have, popped him on the behind or something like that. You can't go outside. Then he get a little rough and say, well, okay, you can't go. Not only can you not go outside today, you ain't go outside all week.
Right.
Oh man!
Right.
you tore him up.
Right.
And so he'll begin to think about those things, And like now, they'll tell him, well, you can't play your game because now kids don't want to go outside.
Right. They don't.
They say, well, you can't play your game. Well, that's something that he loves, and you can discipline him with that. But at the end of the day, discipline has to come into the picture.
Yes.
It has to come into the picture. And training.
Right.
And teaching and talking. And I love what you said in the beginning, putting God in the top and how, God is important for your family. And so bringing them to church and being an example for them, in the home. And so what other advice do you have for really building a close-knit family? Building a close-knit family. And the reason why we're asking you and the reason why we're talking to you today is not because you have a large family. It is because we actually see a close-knit family. Where they just showing up at the house. They just coming to the house.
Yeah.
And they love being around, you and your husband. Yeah. And I think families want that. And so what other advice do you have that can help other families? Maybe not as large. Maybe it's smaller. You have 6 children. You have 24 grandchildren. What can other people do that could, what advice would you give to help them, others?
Finding out things that your child likes to do. And if it's within reason, if there's nothing wrong with it, do some things they want to do. Do some things they want to do. But, just main thing is just do a lot of stuff together. Do a lot of stuff together. If it's just going out to eat every now and then, just do a lot of stuff together. Instead of everybody in the house, you in one room, they in another room, and you're not together. Yeah. Just do a lot of stuff together, and it'll get to where they always want to do stuff together.
Yeah. So, like when y'all get together, how many people, are doing this, with their cell phone, when y'all get together? I
A lot of times they don't.
You don't want to see that?
We don't.
So it's more like, you're
Talking.
engaged, you're talking, you're singing, you're playing, you're doing something together, not with on necessarily the distraction of your cell phone or your tablet or whatever. It's more, looking each other in the eyeballs and talking.
And then even with the men as old as they are now, they'll say, my daughter says like, okay, y'all, let's have a game night. Even though they're all of them old, not old, all of them are older with kids, but they'll still try to come together and play play games, and they'll laugh, or they'll just sit around and just reminisce over old stuff. They do that a lot.
So, hey,
And they just be laughing. I be telling them, what are they talking about? They just be laughing, just having good conversation.
That's good. That's good. I think that for some of our families, I think that we are distracted too much. Like even at the table, we got our cell phone, and we rather than laughing and talking with each other, we having conversations, texting, and things of that nature. And I think that can kind of take away from our closeness if we're doing that. And so that's very good to think about, where you just spend the time with each other and maybe lock up your cell phones or put them away. And just like even for us to even talk now, we had to put our cell phones away. And but I do see that as a something that's kind of hurting our families today, is where we get so involved with our outside things, and we don't have undistracted time with each other. And so that's very good to spend that time with each other. Cook good meals, right?
Definitely.
You believe in that, don't you?
Definitely.
Because I think them kids be coming for them good meals sometimes.
Yeah.
Mama, what you cook? Do they do that?
They do that sometimes.
Mama, what you done cook? Yeah. And sometimes you just go ahead and cook for it.
I do.
You just know they're going to show up, so you just go ahead and cook for them.
I do. I do.
That's good. What's some of your family's favorite meals?
Mac and cheese for sure. Mac and cheese for sure. Collards.
Yeah. Well, that's good. In fact, I think my wife, I left her with pans of macaroni and cheese today. She's preparing for a meal.
Okay.
And so I know that was a staple with us, macaroni and cheese. Or cheese and macaroni.
Yeah.
There'd be so much cheese.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say one time, he said, this macaroni got too much cheese in it. I'm like, what's that?
I know.
What's too much cheese? And another thing I was saying, like you said about the meals and things like that, I know, because I'm a part of your family too, the larger part of your family. And we just look like we make excuses for dinner.
Yeah.
We just make excuses.
I think that came from my mother.
Well, so-and-so lost his tooth. Let's eat.
That came from my mother. She always had dinners.
Yeah.
Even when people got upset with her, she'd have a dinner and invite them over to the dinner.
Yeah.
And they already be upset with her, but they would come.
Yeah.
They would come to the dinner.
Yeah, that's good. And she was very concerned about her food.
Yeah.
How it looked and how it tastes.
Yeah.
And I think I've been there when she would like make something and it didn't look right to her, and she'd be ready to throw it away.
Oh, I did that.
Oh yeah.
When I first got married, my husband thought I was crazy. I cooked a meal. I can't even remember what it was. I cooked that meal. I didn't like the way it looked, and I threw it away. And he stood there. He was like, "I can't believe you just threw that. You just threw that whole meal away." I was like, "You're not. That meal is not good. And if it ain't good, if I didn't think it was good, you're not eating it." So I threw it away and started over.
Don't you see?
He thought I was crazy.
But he stayed. Very good. Very good. I'm glad for you and your family, and I really admire the closeness of your family, and I aspire to be like you and your family. And in fact, I've actually begun to, try to do more things with my family. In fact, one of the things that I've learned from you, you hadn't said it here, but you have some grandchildren that are out of state, and away. And what do you do? What do you do with those grandchildren and those family members that are out of state? And so you're not in proximity to each other. They can't just drop by the house. What do you do with them?
So we video chat every week. Every week. So And that was really, really good because when the kids came, it's like they knew us.
Yeah.
They knew us, you know. And now Malia say, you know, we tried to call y'all. Where are y'all? Where are y'all? And I see a missed video call. If I don't call back, Malia, she's not gonna live it down. Every week we video chat every week, and sometimes through the week.
Yes.
But Sunday is our main day that we always do it every Sunday. It's a certain time every Sunday we know we're going to get this call. And we sit and we wait on it. And sometimes we'll talk an hour, sometimes 2 hours, you know. And then the kids will come over and they get in the, you know, so you get to see everybody. Yeah. So, but yeah, it really helps with grandkids. Because it's like when they do see you face to face, they know you. Yes. And you're not a stranger.
Yeah. I'm starting to do that now. And that's one of the things I've learned from you. And I'm starting to do it. And Sunday is a day, and sometimes through the week. And now my little grandgirl, she'll be talking to my wife, and she says, "Where's Poppy?"
That's exactly
Where's Poppy? And so I have a streak though that I haven't changed a pamper. I haven't changed one of their pampers, but I got a situation tomorrow where I'm gonna probably have to change.
Oh, okay.
You got
to keep the grandkids.
I got to keep all the grandkids tomorrow. So I have all of them. I said I'm probably gonna lose my streak. I've been proud of that, but now I'm gonna have to change all of them tomorrow. But I am looking forward to spending time with them, and I want to build my family to be close and to spend time together and do things that we all enjoy doing together. I want to do that as well, and I hope our audience have heard some things that, some keys and some pointers that will be helpful to you in building your family as a close-knit family. Not just say we blood and we kin, but be close to each other, support each other, help each other out, and be there for each other. Eat together, fellowship with each other, pray together, talk together, laugh together, have game night, do something together. And may the Lord bless you, and may the Lord help you. And I hope you come back again. This has been one of our mothers, Cassandra Camp. And again, she is the wife of Dwight Camp, Elder Dwight Camp, and the mother of 6 and the grandmother of 22 and counting.
I say so.
Now, them kids might be upset with you. But y'all come back again. May God bless you until next time.